So we're going to go through 7 simple steps to keeping social media fun and easy and effective. I was doing a presentation about 6 months ago, and we had gone through Facebook and LinkedIn and some of the more traditional sites, and somebody asked a question about Snapchat. And some of you, if you are on Snapchat, you may have teenagers who are on Snapchat. It's a new social network. Everybody's freaking out about it. So this lady's asking me a question about it, and I'm talking a little about it, and this gentleman in the audience makes this sound of frustration that I could only find when I Googled something similar on the internet, and I found this, and this was the sound that I could come up with that best replicated what this guy seemed to feel like when I was talking about Snapchat. So this is it. His frustration was, I got it, I validated. I mean, it's, you know, seemingly every other week there's a new social network that comes out. So I'm here to tell you that my first tip to you is to not, to be weary of the shiny new penny syndrome, right? So this is a bunch of statistics, but basically what it says to you, and I loved hearing, by the way, the market research just a moment ago, that even millennials aren't really your full economic buyer today, and millennials are barely on Snapchat. It's actually Generation Z, which is like 12 to 18 years old. They're not buying anything from you. So remind your team when you get back that we don't have to be everywhere. We don't have to, you know, do the whole squirrel, you know, kind of thing where it's like, oh, you know, shiny new. So relax on trying to be everywhere, and instead what I want you to do is don't be a jack of all social media sites, master of none. So because we have such limited time, I would normally poll the audience, but I believe, and due to my research and just kind of being a customer of yours over the years, Facebook's a huge platform for you. Instagram is where the millennial generation is, including my generation right above them. Very visual site. I think YouTube has a lot of opportunity for you. And LinkedIn for corporate travel, some of the, obviously the B2B. But Facebook and Instagram, which by the way owned by Facebook, so all under that umbrella, are probably the platforms that you want to double down on. So don't be a jack of all social media sites, master of none. Number 2 is don't wind up on websitesthatsuck.com. That's an actual real website that I don't want you to show up on. I actually took a look at every one of your websites, and I'm now going to show you the one that I would nominate for websitesthatsuck.com. It is, I'm just kidding, I would never do that to you. I would never do that to you. I would not be in this business if I did that. As a matter of fact, I saw a lot of your sites, and they're good. Everybody, including mine, have some opportunity to get better, but I'll just give you a couple things that I want you to kind of write down. We'll talk more about it in my breakout to think about. These are big things that will either help you build credibility in your website or potentially diminish it. So number 1 is being dated. Number 2 is missing critical content on your site. Number 3 is not being mobile responsive, so that means thumb friendly when people are thumbing around on your site. A poor positioning statement and no opt-in box. Now I'm going to explain what each of these are right now. So I took a look. Now of course, if your site is this somebody's site here by raise of hand? Are you in the room? Where? Yes, so I would never make fun of it. I would only compliment it. So this is great. This is an example. I looked on Virtuoso's site last night and just kind of checked out some different sites, especially from my hometown of Atlanta. And this is what I would consider a modern site. And the problem with sites is every 2 or 3 years, they start to get dated. So the good news is there's tons of modern themes out there that you can look at, but I would suggest that you go out to some of your neighbors and colleagues and look at some of the sites, and you can start to see the ones where you go, oh wow, you know, that's a nice looking site where it's like the rotating images, very attractive, things of that nature. So make sure you have a modern theme. This one right here, this is somebody's site in here. What I liked about this, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I've got a little, well, up at the very top, you'll see the phone number and the location that they're in. A lot of your sites are missing the critical information that's above the fold, meaning that people have to scroll to see it. I want you to think about what the 1 or 2 or 3 most critical pieces of information that your common visitor is coming to see on your site, and do they have to scroll to see it? Do they have to thumb down to see it? So don't make it challenging for me to be able to pick up the phone and call you. or to be able to see the location that you're in, or whatever the other critical information might be for your site. Okay, so critical information up at the very top, very important. And then here's Virtuoso's site. I talked about a positioning statement. So in 3 seconds, for me to understand where you are, we live in the ADD generation. People are bouncing around, going all over the place. And so I need to quickly know. Virtuoso connects travelers to the world's best travel advisors. I remember I was looking at a fellow speaker's site, and he said, we put the humor back in humorous, or something like that. And I was like, what in the world does that mean? You're being too cute. Just tell us what you do. Don't be too cute. Tell people exactly what you are. Describe who you are. Now, when I talked about opt-in box, when people come to your website and you let them leave without giving you their information, you risk losing them as a client. So even though these are very, they can be frustrating and they interrupt people's experience. This is called an interrupting pop-up. It comes up right when you're either on the site. What I liked about this from you guys is it's called an exit pop-up. And as I was leaving the site, this box popped up and said, hey, if you'd like to subscribe to us, we'll give you more information as you research your trip. And then they get the chance to take my email address. So I just want you to think about, are you collecting people's information off of your site, or are you hoping and praying that they remember you when it's time for them to book their trip? Something to think about. So this is as far down the spectrum as you can go in terms of aggressive, which is the pop-up that shows up. But you can also just have a little field on the right that just says, hey, if you'd like to stay in touch with us or have us send you monthly research tips or booking trips, type your email address in here. And one other best practice, the more fields you ask for, the less likely they are to do it. So just ask for name and email address. Maybe phone number if that's something that you guys are going to use. But don't ask for too much information or people won't do it. Okay, so failure equals when a person visits your site and you let them leave without giving you their information. Just remember that. And then also, so it's not a shocker that when I Google, I want you guys to put on your Google hats for a second. If I type in luxury travel advisor, this was one of the first sites that pops up. And I just want to show you why it pops up, because over and over and over again, you see the words luxury travel advisor. If you look through this site, you'll see it in 4 or 5 different places. Will I see the same common words that you want to show up on Google on your site? So I want you to do a little test with your team. I want you to think about what your keywords are, the words that when people type in Google, you want to show up. And then are those on your website, yes or no? If the answer is no, rework the content of your site to get those words on there. Does that make sense? Everybody clear on that? We'll go a lot deeper in the breakout later on. But make sure your keywords are in your websites. Okay, number 3 on my simple rules are to be proud of your profiles. So what is concerning to me is when I Google you guys, and we talked about this, I heard some of the guys talk about this last night in a general session. When you get Googled, are there holes in your game? Are there places, like I said, on Snapchat or a Google Plus social network or maybe LinkedIn where you're just not active? And is that diminishing your credibility? So what I want you to do is I want you to audit all of your profiles or have your team do this and simply make a decision. Are you going to start to manage it or go ahead and delete it? It's okay not to be somewhere, but it's not okay for a profile to sit and get dusty, right? I'd hate to go to your Instagram account and there be 12 followers and it be updated 6 months ago, right? That starts to diminish credibility. So do an audit of all your different profiles and just simply make a decision. And also while you do that, make sure the brand is consistent. Same pictures. Current information. Make sure that your current phone number is on there, your physical address, the descriptions of your services. Consistent content, that it's being updated on a fairly regular basis, once a week, couple times a day, depending upon what your strategy is. And then a tribe that you're proud of. It is to some degree a numbers game. When I looked at a lot of your fan pages, I saw thousands of fans. That's good. But if I go to your Facebook fan page and there's 26 fans, that's starting to poke holes in your credibility a little bit. So either just make a decision. Are we going to start to work it, or are we just not going to be there? And like I said on Snapchat, you may decide, you know what? It's not for us. So I'm going to pull our flag out. That's okay. But don't just be there and let it die on the vine. Okay? An untouched profile kills credibility. An untouched profile kills credibility. So just an example of another one of you guys, nice looking Facebook business page, 5 stars. You can get reviewed on your Facebook pages now, so that's something I'll go into in greater detail in my breakouts, but people are more motivated when they're unhappy than when they're happy. So when you have happy champion clients that had a phenomenal trip on their river cruise or wherever you sent them, remind them that the best way to say thank you is a review on your Facebook business page or on your LinkedIn or wherever you're focusing on. Okay, but remind people, be proactive in getting positive testimonials. I heard last night that you can also have your profiles on the Virtuoso site. So make sure that your consistent brand goes to your partners, not just the social networks. So if you guys are using a really cool new timeline photo on Facebook, make sure that that gets updated on your partner sites as well, such as Virtuoso. Number 4 is don't let prospects or clients forget about you. So when I did MLT Vacations and I did a lot of research in your industry, and also I'm a customer, a big challenge is we're a long sail. We may decide to go on a cruise in December, but we may not go to our Alaskan cruise until June. How do you stay top of mind with me without frustrating or annoying me? Social media is a phenomenal way of doing that, especially in this day and age. And instead of you marketing your services, you become a utility for us. You help us. You be a resource for us. And you build trust and credibility. So what I like to do and what I recommend is that you have a content goal. 1 piece of content per week is what I would recommend for your agency, for your business, that you look to help your prospects and clients when it comes to their travel. 1 per week, or a couple per month. Use bullets. People scan, they don't read anymore. So if you're gonna write something, use bullets. Have a call to action. If they're ready to talk further or if they need options, make sure you at least give them the way to be able to contact you. Don't make them search to have to find you. And then make sure you syndicate on your social site. So this is the strategy. What we would do if I were in your shoes, I would do 1 piece of content a week, a good piece of content, a frequently asked question that your folks ask all the time. And then I would syndicate the tips of that content throughout the social network. So if it was 5 ways to make sure you have the dream cruise of a lifetime, then I would take those 5 pieces of information and use them throughout my social sites. So you can tell your social media teams that they don't have to be reinventing the wheel every week with different content on different sites. We just take 1 piece of content and we cut it up and we put it throughout our social media sites. And again, I'll go into greater detail later on, but that's just a highlight of how I recommend that you do your social media content. So this is one of 5 social media best practices I'm going to give you guys in terms of the content and the breakout, but this is just one that I think is so key in the world of social, especially with so much negative going on. Make travel funny. We share things that we think are funny, that put a smile on our face, and you have such an easy category to do this on. So challenge your team to find things out there or to be curators or create content that makes us laugh and enjoy the craziness that is travel, right? So definitely one of those best practices that I highly recommend. Number 5 is double down on Facebook Live. And again, I just want you, some of you are not in the weeds with your social media, but Facebook Live is when you turn your phone on Facebook and you go live and you broadcast a video. And why I'm very pro Facebook Live is because Facebook is pushing Facebook Live a ton. And so whenever I go live, not only does it broadcast to my tribe, but it does in a way higher than any written post that I do on Facebook. And the same thing will go for you because they're pushing it. So when you guys go back to your businesses, think about ways, gosh, how can we use video in our social media marketing? And if we're going to use video, let's use Facebook Live. Let's sit down with maybe your social media marketer or somebody on your team and let's do a quick interview on the ways to make your summer vacation be the best of all, or whatever the case may be, and have a little 3 or 4 minute video. And people can comment on the live video and ask you questions. It's a phenomenal way to build trust and credibility with your group. Number 6, very quickly, got 2 minutes to go. I got 2 left for you. Build a relationship with your VIP. So I heard last night with Mark, he teed me up perfectly for this, is, are your clients only hearing from you when it's time to book a trip or, invoice time or money time or whatever the case may be? But are you building relationships with repeat buyers or people in your industry that you need to have strong connections with? And, I will just tell you right now, if you think about a VIP, somebody who refers you, buys repeatedly, loves you, what's their birthday? Send them a birthday gift, right? What are they passionate about? What are their kids' names? What are their hobbies? And Mary Stevenson, just to give you an example, she's one of my clients that's booked me to speak 3 years running, and she's a Facebook friend of mine. And of course I know what her birth date is. It shows up every time I go to Facebook. I know she's a huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I know the Bible is her favorite book. She's passionate about that. I know she just became a grandmother for the first time. I know all these things simply because I'm connected with her on Facebook. So you may want to think about, as our lives continue to get a little bit more connected online, is whether or not you're going to allow your work to intersect with your personal. And I had to make that decision many years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm glad I did. The negatives are there. I can't post things that I would normally post just to my family and friends, but the positives outweigh the negatives. To be able to deepen the relationship with the people that provide food for my family has made a world of difference, and I've been able to stay in contact with them. Oh, and that's, we compete with cuteness pictures, and that's my son Milo. I'm not going to show you her grandchild, but I still think we win, so that's Milo. So in summary, I'm going to wrap up here with only 20 seconds to go. Fish where the fish are. So figure out where your customers and clients are and meet them there. Figure out where your customers and clients are and meet them there, and don't feel like you have to be on every social media site. Double down on your strengths. Don't be everywhere. Don't let your website get bent out of shape. It's a key component to your overall sales strategy. And if you guys aren't nurturing that and updating it, you're really missing the boat. And during my little breakout, I'll put a couple of your websites up and we'll take a look and we'll kind of put them to the test if you're up for that. Don't do it all yourself. You're doing it wrong if you try to do all this yourself. So get a team together, if you need to. Be creative. This is the way I used to cook hot dogs at Florida State University. But make sure your team is creative. Don't phone it in when it comes to social media. Have fun. Be creative. Have brainstorming meetings. Put all your millennials in a room together and say, okay, we're going green light thinking here. Great ideas. Let's go. And hear the ideas. Look around what other businesses are doing. Have fun with it. And last but not least, of course, keep it simple.